Now, I'd like to talk briefly about database maintenance and modification. This is because it's become quite a significant problem. The kind of problems you might encounter, and most of us have, is that a data entity is present, but it's in a different format. The classic example is a date. Somebody stored it in day, month, year, and you want it in year, month, day, or other way around. Or a customer number is numeric and you want it in character. Or it's in character and you need it numeric. That's the fairly typical problem. Another typical problem is the data entity is smaller than you need. This is frequently it's things like a customer number. Initially, when the system started out, somebody thought that 1,000 customers would be an unimaginably large number of customers. Well, now you've hit 1,000 customers and you want more. A data entity has a misleading name. It probably made perfect sense to the person who did it at the time, but the world moved along and maybe the meaning shifted. But the data entity has now a misleading name and you need to change that. Or the entity is in the wrong table. It's in a table, but it's in the wrong table, it turns out. So these are the kind of problems that people may want to correct by correcting the database. Now, the constraints on database maintenance are usually that other applications and systems use the field you want to modify. Now, illustration of this, something that I didn't realize quite how significant it was. There was somebody in a reasonable sized financial organization in Sydney, Australia, and they pointed to a data entity in a table. It wasn't a particularly significant data entity, and it wasn't a particularly significant table, and it wasn't one of the major tables. But his comment was, there are 72 applications use that entity. Now, that meant that if you wanted to change that entity, you had to go and maintain 72 applications that were dependent on that entity. So you really have to be careful of it all. Now, databases also suffer from dependency problems. Now, adding a new entity normally doesn't cause too many problems. Increasing the size of an entity may cause some applications to fail, or you may simply get buffer overflow or something of that nature. Changing an entity type will probably cause applications to fail. So some things you can do with relative ease and some things you can't. The challenges of database maintenance. Now, if you're going to have to maintain a database, there's going to be a cost of change, and you have to work out the value of that change. Then you'll have to work out the cost of the change. What's the cost to alter the database, the cost to trace all dependencies, the cost of updating all the applications that depend on it, and the cost of testing them all, and then the cost of changeover, because you're probably going to have to change this over quite suddenly. Does the value of the change exceed the cost? If not, leave it alone. If it does, go for your life. Performing the maintenance itself, you do need to plan. As I mentioned before, you have to trace all the applications that are going to depend on whatever it is you're going to change. And see, the horror is you'll miss one, and it will become evident probably the day after you've just ramped up the new database. You need to identify all the programs and systems that will need modification. You estimate the cost of change and tests that will affect all the programs. And then you need to figure out when and how this maintenance can be done, which is probably another significant thing, because it's not as if both the database and these applications are sitting still. These things will be changed as well. So in summary then, the database maintenance is made difficult by all the dependencies that exist between entities across different tables and with all the applications that depend on those entities. Database maintenance does need to be estimated and planned. You can't just go in and do it. You might think you can, and you may do it. You'll probably do it once. Maintenance might not be cost effective, so it might be your application that has to change. Or if you're really lucky, you can probably implement it in some sort of an intervening part of the system. Legacy databases cause many problems as legacy applications. There really are a lot of dependencies, a lot of work going on with legacy applications, and I'm sorry, but we're stuck with it.